Welcome to my spoiler review for Thor Ragnarok. If you have not seen the film yet, this is not the video for you. This video is only for those who have seen Thor Ragnarok in theaters. Thor Ragnarok, I said in my non-spoiler review, we're going to get into it right now, so no more warnings, was good, but it wasn't great. There are some things in the movie that I find questionable, and the more I think about the movie, the more I think it might end up being a movie that I see once in a while, but don't, come back to. Thor Ragnarok was a movie that I would always come back to. I would always love it. I would watch it. Jeff Goldblum is hilarious in it, Taika Waititi, and of course Chris Hemsworth. This one, it's got more problems. So while I'm happy that they wrapped up the Jane Foster story, and yeah, it was bittersweet because she died, Gore died, and Gore's daughter became, Love, and then Thor became Thunder. So they're taking Thor in a different direction where now he does have a kid to look after, and that is a new direction, but I'm not really sure if that's a direction that I like, to be honest with you. I felt like this movie was trying really hard to be somewhat meta, or at least trying hard to be funny, and it was funny at times, but at other times it was almost making fun of itself, and I think some folks are going to have issues with that. But it was very bittersweet when Jane died, but because she's been gone for so long, I didn't really feel the same emotions that I did when Iron Man died in Endgame. Like, that one really hit me in the chest. Same thing with Aunt May in Spider-Man No Way Home. For some reason, this one didn't. Maybe because I had an idea she was going to die. So the Mighty Thor character is only going to be in this film, apparently, and no other time. In the end credit scene, she goes to the gates of Valhalla, and Heimdall is there. And of course, Heimdall, I wasn't expecting that, but yes, Idris Elba. It was good to see him again in a MCU movie. Now, some other disappointments, honestly. Well, first of all, the good. I really love the soundtrack. The fight scene with the Guardians early in the film and the one that took place in the village where the two Thors work together was a lot of fun. And also what I really enjoyed, and I talked about this in a non-spoiler review, was the visuals. That part in the movie where Thor and Jane go to the Shadow Planet, and it's all black and white, but the weapons are colorful. I love that. I really, really love that. I'm somebody who really loves movies and appreciates, creative filmmaking. So it was almost like they were doing an hour tour kind of, independent movie kind of shot there, or, scene there, but it's still a big budget MCU film. Taika Waititi continued what he was doing in Ragnarok, but I do think the movie is weaker. Another example of something that I found questionable was when Thor gave his power to the kids. I didn't want to talk about this in the non-spoiler review, but that was weird because I didn't know Thor could do that, and they all got really strong. It really felt like an ass pull. That felt like an ass pull. And whenever you have kids in one of these films, kid actors, they can really screw things up. Now, not all of them are bad, I'm not saying that, but a lot of times kid actors become really, really annoying, and they weren't on screen enough to really become annoying in this film, but I think a lot of people are going to have problems with the fact that they were there kind of being heroes. Everybody got to be a hero here, and that to me was, a little off. I will say that, Gore the God Butcher as Christian Bale, I wanted more of that. I thought he was great in what he did. I thought he was great in the role, but I was hoping for a little bit more of that. I still feel like what we got, I think he got a little bit more screen time than Willem Dafoe did in Spider-Man No Way Home, but every scene with Willem Dafoe just felt incredible. Here, every scene felt good, but Willem Dafoe still captures that real, true evil sadistic side that I think Bale was going for, but it wasn't quite at the same level. And it's hard for me to say that because I love Christian Bale and pretty much everything he does, but I wanted more from that character. I wanted to see him kill other gods and us witnessing some of these things that were just talked about. Also, I really wanted to see Jeff Goldblum in this film. Apparently they shot footage with him, but it was cut from the theatrical, and I'm not really sure why, because he was a real highlight of Ragnarok. Plus, the Guardians of the Galaxy are only there for pretty much a glorified cameo in the first act, and I do feel like a lot of fans are going to get pissed because they didn't get to see Thor working with them that much. When the movie starts early on, we already see Thor working out to burn his belly fat and go back to being ripped Chris Hemsworth Thor. And that was cool. I thought it would be something that he did later on in the film. But seeing the Guardians, they all had tons of charisma, but didn't really do anything. They were kind of wasted. Like Dave Bautista's there, has like one line in the whole film. You know, I'm glad they were in the film, but they didn't do anything. They weren't even servicing the plot. And I feel like there should have been a movie in between Endgame and this one where you see Thor and them working together and having a real adventure. You know, that to me was a big letdown. Also, Valkyrie, I thought was way less interesting in this film than she was in Ragnarok. It's one of those things where, like I said, I don't hate this movie, but it was a step down for sure from Ragnarok. On top of that, you know, I wanted Jeff Goldblum, I wanted more of the Guardians, I wanted more of Jane, and obviously, you know, it's one of those things where I'm not necessarily mad I didn't get what I want, but like I said in my non-spoiler, this movie really needed another 15-20 minutes. It really did. Most Marvel movies, like Eternals for example, that movie you could have shaved 20 minutes off of it and it may have been a more enjoyable view. This one you could have added 20 minutes to it. This is also the first movie without Loki. That's a Thor movie, and I thought that was also, you know, interesting. And he was missing. You know, Tom Hiddleston was definitely missing from this movie. Now, I did really like Zeus. I love Zeus. I thought that was, like, that was a fun character. That was a really fun character, and they finally introduced him into the MCU. I mean, if you read the comics or know about it, and I'm not a Thor expert by any means, you know, but Russell Crowe was there with this wacky accent. But it's also weird that these gods are just kind of lazy. Like, you know, like, they came off, like, really lazy, and it was kind of predictable. You know, I kind of saw what was coming with that. But I find it interesting that they called Natalie Portman to come back and just, you know, be in the film just to die. I thought that was weird, but every scene she was in was good. I really felt the emotion of when they reunited and they kissed. And then when she's in the room and Thor tells you cannot wield Mjolnir, you can't wield the hammer because it's taking your life away from you and stopping you from fighting the cancer. You know, that was, and she made the choice. She made the decision to go and fight. You know, I kind of saw it coming, but as I'm watching the film, I really thought that they were going to, like, figure out a way for her not to die. And it is what it is. You know what I mean? My feelings on this movie are a bit mixed because, yes, it was a disappointment to a degree, but it gave me a lot of things I liked and a lot of enjoyable moments. It's one of those movies where, you know, I didn't hate it when I watched it. There were things that I thought were kind of like questionable, like the kids being heroes and, you know, things of that nature. But it wasn't one of those things where, like, I ended up hating it, but I could just tell that people are going to hate that too. I can just, like, I know they're going to be talking trash about how much the movie sucks and how stupid it was. But it was lacking the same level of, like, fun. And, like, I missed the Thor low-key kind of, like, buddy cop stuff, but they can't do that forever either. See what I'm saying? So I'm very mixed. Like, I kind of want this, but they don't do this, so they do something else, and I like it, but I don't love it. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain this. You know, as an MCU fan, and I've talked about this before, I'm really burnt out. I haven't watched any of Miss Marvel. Still haven't seen anything from Moon Knight. It's not a priority to me. I have way too many things going on, and 3 Marvel movies a year is already enough. You know, the TV shows make it even harder. But I did enjoy my time watching this, but you know, with Ragnarok, dude, I just went back multiple times. It was just that, the way that movie was edited, and it was just a really fun romp. This one was fun too, but it just wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't up to the same level. And ultimately, it kind of feels like Phase 4, where it's a step down, and Phase 4 as a whole feels like a step down for the entire MCU. Everything peaked at Phase 3. You know, Doctor Strange came in, Civil War, still one of my favorite films, Infinity War and Endgame together, Ragnarok, like, they could almost do no wrong. You know, and I actually liked Ant-Man too. You know, but here you can tell that it just feels like the MCU feels like it's starting to become long in the tooth. You know what I mean? They really have to slow down and figure out what direction they're going in. The mid-credit scene featured Hercules, and that was cool, but is that where we're going next? Is Hercules going to go fight Thor in the 5th Thor movie? I mean, I know Chris Hemsworth said he's going to do Thor as long as he wants or as long as possible, but they got to come up with something, you know, a bittersweet movie, you know. I did not feel the same emotions that I did for other characters when Jane passed away, or even Gore, and that should say something. I don't know. I can't say it was a bad film because it wasn't bad. It was good. Like, if you were to ask me what would you rate it out of 1 out of 10, it's like a 6.5 or a 7. And that's not a bad rating. That's still above average. It's a good movie. But great movie is like 8.5 or 9. That's a great movie. And I thought that Ragnarok was a great movie. I would put this one, as far as the order of Thor movies, I would put it right now, Ragnarok to the top, followed by this one, then Thor 1, then Dark World, which really, really sucked. There were some cool cameos here. Kat Dennings, of course, huge fan of hers. She appeared here for the first time since WandaVision. That was cool, as being, of course, Jane's friend. I liked her character when she was, pointing out like the book stuff. Like, that was cool. And, Thor being kind of this cocky guy who's, incredibly charismatic. Like, that was awesome. But they didn't really do anything that was that new, and the world building and the lore for the gods was cool, but it wasn't like, I don't know, it was just missing something. And to me, that just makes it a good movie, but not a great movie, but still a good movie and probably worth seeing. So what did you think? I mean, I'm curious about people's thoughts on this. I can definitely see this one being debatable. No Way Home was like a unanimous freaking thumbs up. Like, very few people hated that film. I think with this one, you're going to have people that love it, people that hate it, and people who think, it was okay. And I'm more in the, it was okay. It was a good movie, but again, definitely a step down. And I feel like the MCU Phase 4, besides Spider-Man No Way Home, was a big letdown. Even Doctor Strange 2 felt like a big letdown, but I do blame the internet and the fake leaks that came out to really hurt that film. Based on like, we're going to get all these cameos, the multiverse of madness, we're going to see all these people. We saw some, but not that many. Overall, Phase 4, I think, is a letdown overall. We need another movie like Spider-Man. You got to remember, during Phase 3, every movie that came out was a hit. And was, 9 or 10. Well, not a 10. There's only a few movies that are 10s, but like 8 to 9, every single one. I would put Civil War at 10, because I love that film. Maybe even Infinity War. Endgame is for sure a 10. That's for sure a 10. Homecoming was fun. Maybe it didn't age that well. And I would put this movie probably where Homecoming is at, like right around that range, where it's not top 10, maybe like top 20. That's only my opinion, of course. I do love the soundtrack with Guns N' Roses. I love the visual effects. The way the aesthetic of the film worked great, but the actual story, they could have done more with the characters. Good story, they could have done more with the characters. And again, like I said earlier, this movie really does need a little bit more time. It would really be helpful if it had a bit more time to flesh out. Anyways, that's going to close out my spoiler review. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about in the future. Hercules is coming. Jane is in heaven, so she got kind of a happy ending, I would say. But not enough Guardians, man. I really want that Guardians Thor adventure. I really want that. I really was hoping for more of that here. And they kind of got shelved, to be honest. They were kind of just there, like, okay, well, Thor's going back to being Thor. We're not going to get that cool adventure that Endgame kind of teased. And that was a bummer. That was a legit... They really needed to do a movie with Thor and the Guardians. They really needed to do that, because the one scene here was fun. I want a whole movie of that with everybody having their time. I kind of wish that Guardians 3 had come out before Thor Love and Thunder so we could see them with Thor one last time, because I was really looking forward to that based on what happened in Endgame and how they got together. But here they just kind of split them apart, and it just felt very anticlimactic. So that's it. I'm going to end the review now. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Take care of yourself and each other.